Yoo Jinho is one of the best SR hunters in solo leveling Arise, and is actually free. And what makes him so good is his ability to supply some great stat buffs, the ability to stun your enemies, healing, and also just much more, which is why in this video I'll be going over how you can make the best of his kit, as this is how to best build Yoo Jinho. And starting off with his level 55 artifact sets, we have the Guardian gear set. As on the 2 set effect, it can increase the user's shield strength by 30%, and then also on the 4 set effect, when a team member, including himself, activates a shield, you'll be able to increase their individual damage dealt by 10%. And just to quickly note, this gear set is only really useful once you do have him at completely max dupes, as pretty much what Yoo Jinho can do is put a potion on the field that Jinho and also other allies can take, and this will be able to recover their HP equal to 12% of Yoo Jinho's max HP, and then we'll also be able to give them an attack increase which is equal to 12%, and then can also apply a shield which is equal to 12% of Yoo Jinho's max HP, and he can also apply a shield on his 3rd dupe as well. However, this shield only does apply to himself, so it's not as useful, whereas this shield is actually applied to whoever picks up his potion that he does drop, which does mean if you are going to use this gear set, just make sure that you do have him max dupe, so then pretty much anybody on your team can get that potion shield buff as well as the attack increase, so then they can actually benefit from the 10% damage dealt increase. And then next up we have the solid analysis gear set, as on the 2 set effect you can increase your break effectiveness by 15%, and then on the 4 set effect, whenever you attack an enemy that has the elemental weakness, so in this case with Yoo Jinho, basically any enemy that is weak to the light element, your break effect will increase by 30% as well. Noble Sacrifice is another great set, as you can increase your HP by 8%, which is really good, as you can increase your shield strength and stuff like that. And then also with the 4 set effect, you can give your whole team an 8% attack increase as well, which will work very nicely as well. And then the final gear set I'd recommend would be the Destroyer gear set, as you can increase your ultimate charge rate by 20%, and then on the 4 set effect, you can increase your whole team's ultimate charge rate by an additional 20%, whilst also immediately charging yours by 50% at the start of battle. And then for level 78 artifact sets, the best set by far will be the Burning Greed set, as when you do get the 8 set effect, you can increase your break effectiveness by 30%, and then once you've gotten enough greed stacks from the 2 set effect, you'll be able to apply Burning Greed, which will increase your whole team's crit rate by 15% and their crit damage by 30% as well, which is ridiculous, which makes it by far his best gear set overall. Or if you wanted to, you could run Burning Blessing as well, as on the 8 set effect, you'll be able to apply Burning Blessing, which will allow you to recover your teammates' HP, whilst also increasing their damage as well, which is still pretty good, but is definitely by far nowhere near as good as Burning Greed is. And then for other accessory sets, the best one I would recommend for level 55 ones would be Outstanding Connection, as you can give a 28% attack increase to whoever is swapped in after you use Yoo Jinho, which is really good. And then of course, in order to apply the 8 set effects of Burning Greed, as well as the Burning Blessing set, you are going to need their accessories to be used. So then for all of the stats that you do want on these pieces, let's start off with the main stats for his artifact sets, and on his helmet, you'll either want defense percent or HP percent. As with a lot of Yoo Jinho's kit, he does scale off of the defense stat, however, a lot of his other parts of his kit do actually scale off of his HP stat, with things like his potion healing and also his shield creation also scaling off of his max HP stat, which does mean when you are using his gear pieces, when you do roll for main stats or whatever, you can either go for defense percent for more damage, or you can go for HP percent to offer your team more healing, as well as also tankier shields as well. And then for the body armor, it will always be additional defense, as well as with the gloves always being additional attack. And then the same also applies to the boots as it did with the helmet, as you'll either want to go for defense percent for more damage, or you can go for HP percent for more supporting buffs. And then for accessories, the necklace will always give you additional HP. The bracelet, you'll always want to go for light damage percent, as he is off the light elements. And then again, for the ring, you'll either want defense percent for more damage, or HP percent, so you can increase your shield strength and also give your team more healing. Which then leaves the earrings, which is always going to give you additional mana points. And then moving on to his best substats for all these pieces, and this will apply to his main artifacts as well as also accessories, as in my opinion, I don't really think Yoo Jinho does need any crit stats, so you don't need to worry about that too much. But the 4 substats I recommend that you try and get the most are going to be HP percent, additional HP, defense percent, and then also additional defense as well, as those are the 4 most important stats that he does want, which overall does make him really easy to build. So then moving on, we have all of his best weapons, and I know his exclusive weapon isn't actually out yet, however, I still want to talk about it, as in the future it will be his best weapon, as his only exclusive weapon is called Nice to Meet You. And what this will do, it'll increase the user's attack, defense, and HP by 2%, which can go all the way up to 5%, and then also when the user does obtain Yoo Jinho's potion, you'll be able to additionally increase the user's attack, defense, and HP by 1.5%, which will go all the way up to 3% as well, which is another pretty decent increase. And then for other weapons, you're really only left with one other choice, and that is going to be the Steel Axe, as this is the only other somewhat okay defense scaling weapon, as what it can do, it can increase your core attack damage by 9%, which will go up all the way to 24%, which is kind of useful as you will want to use Jinho's core attacks a little bit as they do deal break damage, which can be useful. So being able to buff its damage can be pretty good. So then next up, let's talk about all of his best skills that you want to level up first. And the skill that I would actually recommend that you level up the most is actually going to be his own second basic skill, which is called Trust Me. And the main reason for this is just because it is one of his most important skills in his kit. So increasing its damage from 930% of his defense all the way to 1395% of his defense is always going to be really good. And the same also applies to his ultimate skill, which is I'll Protect You, which is pretty much all it is just a much better version of his second basic skill, as his second basic skill will just deal heavy break damage, which is really good, and increase your defense by 20%. However, on his ultimate, it will increase your whole party's defense by 40% as opposed to 20%. Then the next skill I'd recommend is My Turn, as this is his first basic skill and can deal medium break damage, and the damage can go from 545% of his defense all the way up to 817% of his defense as well. And increasing the damage that this skill can do, it will be very useful because obviously the more damage the merrier, shock. But it is also very useful as it can apply a stun, which will last for 1 second. However, it pretty much just lasts for the duration of the whole skill. And then next we'll go for his core attack X Slash, as this is something that you will use quite a bit in order to deal as much break damage as possible, as it does deal weak break damage. And the damage of this can go from 452% of Yoo Jinho's defense all the way up to 678% of his defense. And then finally, his QTE skill, which is called It's My Turn, is his final way in where he can actually apply and create a potion, which overall will give this skill a decent amount of value, as you can increase its damage from 650% all the way up to 975% of Yoo Jinho's defense. So then finally, to end off this video, let's talk about all of his best teams and also synergies. And for his synergies, the characters that will best synergize with him are other defense scalers. So this means like characters like Hwang Dong-soo and also Baek Yoonho are going to be really good pairings for Jinho. And with Jinho having the ability to increase their defense by a pretty decent amount, it does mean that you can actually increase both of their damage by quite a bit. However, the problem with these two is the fact that if you do have Jinho and max dupes, they can't really benefit from his attack increase from his potions, which does mean running characters like Cha Hain or Alicia can also work as well, or just pretty much any other attack scaling character in the game can also be very useful with Jinho. So then a team that you could use could look something like this, with the Mono Light team of Yoo Jinho, Min Byung-gu, and then also Cha Hain. Or if you did want to run a big DPS like Hwang Dong-soo with Jinho, you could run someone like Lee Bora in this team with Dong-soo and also Jinho, as Lee Bora does just offer a lot with her kit as well. And when it comes to using shadows with Jinho, you can pretty much use practically any shadow in the game apart from blades, as Tank is really good as you can increase your defense stat to increase all of your damage. You could use Iron for his all team members max HP increase, or if you're using Jinho on a much more supportive role, you can use Igris as well, who can increase your whole team's crit rate. But overall, I would preferably go for Iron. And then for the rest of the shadows, as always, Tusk is always really good, as you can give all of your shadows an attack buff. And then finally, if you want some more single target damage, Igris is your best bet, as he does apply the really strong bleed debuff. But if you're lacking in AoE damage on your team, then Blades is also amazing. And then as for Tank, I wouldn't really recommend it as much, as his only real main focus is to stun your targets. However, Jinho himself already does do that, so it's not really needed as much, which overall would leave a team like this, in my opinion, definitely being one of Yoo Jinho's best teams. So there you have it. Yoo Jinho is an amazing support character, as he's just a bit of a jack of all trades, to be honest, because he has a lot of things like healing, damage buffs, and also things like break damage, which is really good and does make him one of the best SR hunters in the game. But overall, if you did actually enjoy this video, or you just found it just useful in general, then don't forget to like and subscribe and click the link down below to support me as a creator, as all of those things do help a ton. But most importantly, I will see you all in the next video. Peace!